Welcome back to True Life Lessons. Today we explore the story of Rohan, a man paralyzed by the illusion of perfect timing. In the misty hills of Kailashpur, life moved at a gentle pace, hiding the turbulent dreams of a humble schoolteacher. Rohan was a dedicated educator guiding young minds through the alphabet, yet his own mind was constantly wandering to distant worlds. By night, he was a creator, weaving intricate stories and profound characters onto the pages of his battered and beloved notebook. He possessed a rare talent for storytelling, but fear kept his brilliance locked away within the four walls of his small room. He kept his manuscripts hidden beneath his bed, convinced that the world was not yet ready for his unpolished, raw voice. He told himself he was simply waiting for the right moment, a magical time when success would be guaranteed without risk. But days turned into weeks and weeks into years, while the dust settled thickly on the dreams he refused to chase. He watched others succeed, bitterly thinking they were just lucky, unaware that they had simply dared to start while he waited. The calendar pages turned relentlessly, mocking his hesitation as he continued to polish stories that no one would ever read. One afternoon, the sky turned a bruised purple, and a ferocious storm descended upon the valley with little to no warning. Rohan was walking home along the winding mountain path, fighting against the gale that threatened to sweep him off his feet. The rain fell in sheets, blurring the world into a grey wash and turning the solid earth into slippery, dangerous mud. Through the storm, the headlights of a local bus pierced the darkness, carrying weary passengers hoping to reach their homes safely. The road was treacherous, and the heavy vehicle struggled for grip, sliding uncomfortably close to the edge of the steep cliff. Nature was unleashing its full fury, and the mountains seemed to groan under the weight of the water and the wind. Small stones began to clatter down the hillside, a subtle warning from the earth that stability was about to be lost. Suddenly the path ahead was blocked by falling debris, forcing the bus to stop on a patch of ground that was softening. Inside the bus, confusion turned to fear as the passengers realized they were trapped between a blocked road and a precipice. The soaked earth beneath the rear wheels began to give way, unable to support the heavy load of the stranded vehicle. With a sickening lurch, the bus tilted backward, suspended precariously over the edge, held only by friction and a prayer. Rohan stood just meters away, witnessing the nightmare unfold, his heart pounding against his ribs like a trapped bird in a cage. Screams erupted from the vehicle, but panic paralyzed everyone inside, as any sudden movement could send them plunging into the deep valley. Rohan wanted to rush forward, but his old habit of hesitation took hold, freezing his muscles and clouding his judgment. He looked around desperately, hoping for someone stronger, brave, or more capable to appear and take the burden of action. Suddenly, a stray black dog bounded onto the scene, barking furiously at the metal beast that was threatening to fall. The animal did not calculate the risks or wait for a plan. It simply acted on instinct, driven by a raw urge. While the humans stood frozen in their complex fears, the dog threw itself into the fray, doing whatever it could to help. Watching the fearless creature, shame burned through Rohan's veins, melting the ice that had kept him stationary for far too long. A child's face appeared at the rear window, tears streaming down, pleading silently for salvation before the earth swallowed them whole. Something snapped inside him. He threw aside his umbrella and his doubts, sprinting toward the danger he had always feared. He reached the vehicle and tore at the emergency door, his fingers bleeding, fueled by an adrenaline he had never felt before. The door gave way, and Rohan screamed for them to move, becoming the leader he had always waited for others to be. One by one they leapt to safety, Rohan catching them and pulling them onto solid ground as the bus creaked ominously. The earth groaned louder and the bus slipped further, the tires losing their final grip on the reality of the road. With seconds to spare, Rohan lunged for the last child, pulling him free just as gravity claimed its heavy prize. They tumbled onto the muddy bank, gasping for air, safe by a mere heartbeat as a thunderous crash echoed from below. The bus was gone, swallowed by the valley, a stark reminder of the tragedy that had been averted by mere seconds. Rohan lay in the mud, the rain washing away the fear, leaving behind a clarity he had never experienced in his life. The black dog trotted over, nudging his hand, a silent partner in a victory that belonged to those who dared to act. The survivors looked at him not as a simple schoolteacher, but as the savior who had stepped up when it mattered. He stared into the abyss and realized that if he had waited for the perfect moment, silence would now reign here. The realization hit him harder than the storm. Waiting feels safe, but it is actually a slow and silent form of death. He thought of his manuscripts, his dreams, and all the words he had imprisoned in the dark, waiting for a permission slip. He stood up, not just from the mud, but from the lethargy that had defined his existence for all these wasted years. The storm passed, as all storms do, but the man who walked back to the village was not the same one who left. He returned home, soaked and shivering, but fueled by an internal fire that warmed him more than any hearth ever could. He pulled the dusty box from its hiding place, no longer treating it as a tomb for his dreams, but as a launch pad. He held his work in his hands, realizing that perfection is a myth used by cowards to avoid the possibility of failure. That very night he prepared the package, addressing it to a publisher in the city, accepting the risk of rejection over regret. The next morning he marched to the post office, carrying his soul in an envelope, ready to send it out into the world. As the stamp hit the paper, a weight lifted off his shoulders, heavier than the bust he had helped to save yesterday. He returned to his classroom, teaching not just the curriculum, but the vital lesson that courage is a verb, not a feeling. He continued to write, not for a future moment, but for the now, understanding that the present is the only time we own. Months later, a reply came. It wasn't a guarantee of fame, but an offer to listen, a door opening slightly to his talent. Whether he became famous or not didn't matter anymore. He had already won the most important battle against his own procrastination. He looked down at the winding road where fate had tested him, grateful for the storm that had washed away his fear. Life does not send you a perfect signal or a ringing bell to tell you that your time has finally come. The world belongs to those who move, who build, and who dare to step into the arena while others sit and watch. Rohan learned that the right time is a myth we tell ourselves to justify our inaction and to comfort our cowardice. The only right time is the moment you decide to stop waiting and start doing, regardless of the fear you feel. His stories eventually found their way to readers, touching hearts because they came from a man who had truly lived his truth. And the black dog, the unlikely hero of that stormy day, found a home with the man he had taught to be brave. They existed together, a reminder that instinct and action are often wiser than the overthinking mind that seeks safety in delay. Don't wait for the storm to pass, and don't wait for the sun to shine perfectly before you begin your journey. If you have a dream, a project, or a word to say, do not silence it for one more second of hesitation. Walk towards your fear, for that is where your life is waiting to unfold in ways you cannot yet imagine. We are small in the grand scheme of things, but our actions can ripple out and change the course of destiny forever. Rohan didn't just save a bus that day, he saved himself from a life of regret. And that is the true victory. Your page is blank and the pen is in your hand. The ink will not flow unless you decide to move it. Let the story of the teacher and the dog remind you that courage is simply the willingness to take the first step. So I ask you today, what are you waiting for? What is the masterpiece you are hiding under your own bed? Open the door, step out into the rain, embrace the chaos, because that is where you will find who you truly are. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the mountains of Kailashpur and the depths of the human spirit. If this story moved you, please share it. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Create it today. Subscribe for more inspiring stories